I've actually finished painting the body, even though I haven't finished the process of flatting the paint. Certainly no more painting to do, so what I've decided to do is to put the body back onto the chassis. The reason for that is so I've got more room in the garage to work, and then I'll finish flatting the paint once it's on the chassis. I've mounted the cradle to lift it. The chassis is almost complete. All the rear suspension's in. I haven't done the front suspension yet. It's sitting on the forward jacking point at the moment. So, and unfortunately it's around the wrong way. I've got to take it out of the garage. So I've either got to manually lift it and wheel it out, a bit like a big wheelbarrow, or I'll probably put it on the engine crane on the front and then just wheel it out. Then I've got to turn it around, bring the body across, lift the body up, and then wheel the chassis back under the body and then lower it down. So a fair bit to do. Basically the reverse of what I did in the first place. Won't bother showing how that's done. You saw how that was done when I took it off. It's just the reverse. The only difficulty is no wheels on the front this time, but I'll overcome that. Once I get it outside the garage, I might use the tractor to help turn it around, so I'll see how I go first. The car went on a lot easier than I thought. Had some help from my son-in-law, and we lifted the body up, took the temporary trolley out from under, and then wheeled the chassis back under the body. Because it doesn't have the front wheels, we picked up the front and used it like a big wheelbarrow. Worked quite well. What I've now got to do is just to make sure I've positioned it properly on the mounting places on the chassis. Just got a couple of large screwdrivers through the holes with a rough location, and I'll go around and make sure all the wooden blocks are in the right position, and then line it up, make sure it is properly lined up. Even though it's in the holes at the moment, it doesn't appear to be quite right. It's probably about 1/4 of an inch out, I think, but I'll go around and make sure I measure it all and get it right. Then I'll bolt it down, and then the reassembly process really is about to start, apart from the motor, but there's a lot of reassembly on the body. As I said, I've started to finish off the paint. That's just back to 2000. It's flat. I've yet to polish that, and I've yet to finish doing the 2000. So it's only 1000 on that side, 2000 on the front. So there's a fair bit of work to do still, but certainly. So all the painting's finished, and now it's just a case of finishing it off, which is also quite a long process. I'm just starting to fit the main wiring loom. The reason I'm doing it now is that there's nothing in the engine bay, and I'm not going to connect the dash, but it's just the main loom. I've got the fuse and the regulator in. The loom fits quite well. This is the advantage of doing it on a board first of all, to make sure that the loom you're making is actually going to fit in place. The solenoid is in place. I've got a cutout, main cutout to isolate the battery. I'm just starting to put the relay box that I made up. Just put it through there. I'm just feeding the wires through from the loom from inside the car. I've got to fit all the relays yet. I'm just pulling the wiring loom through and then putting grommets in place. It's not quite done yet. There's a lot of wires in the relay box. It's pretty tightly packed, so I'll get the wires through first, and then I'll just mount each relay and wire them up as I go. I've also got to have wires coming out of the relay box. I'll come out on this side and I'll go to the various parts of the car. So at this stage I'm just trying to get the fuse box and the wiring in place. There's actually quite a lot that goes onto the firewall, more than you actually realise. Now, I didn't pull all of this off to start with because it was already off when I got the vehicle. So it's a bit of trying to figure out what goes where and to make sure I've actually got all the components. Most of the things, the major things, I've actually cleaned up well in advance. Other things I'm actually searching the boxes of parts, things like throttle linkages and so on, and cleaning them up as I go, and then working out exactly where they fit onto the firewall. The relay box, I've finished connecting that up to the loom. The loom is fitting in quite nicely. Relay box is not actually mounted on properly yet. That's the next task. One thing to be careful of, particularly when you pull a car completely apart and paint everything, is that you need to make sure you've still got earth. So what I've been mindful of when I've been connecting the various components is to clean the paint away to make sure I've got good solid earths. And I'll check that with a meter before I actually completely bolt everything up. So that's the next thing to do with this. Now I've cleaned up the paint around the bolts. I'll do the inside on the firewall and make sure there is a good earth, because these relays, there's a lot of earthing involved in that. The relay box, of course, is covered. I haven't put that on yet. That'll be covered by this. So it's all protected on the inside of the engine bay. Some brass knurled fittings to go on the outside just to hold everything in place. I'll probably put a couple of spring washers in there. I haven't fully mounted this in yet. What I was mainly doing is working out what goes where things bolt on. The confusing thing for me at the moment is how the cables run. Now, obviously there's a tap on here. I'll have to get a replacement tap for that. There's a control on this side of the heater box and a control on that side. From what I've seen of photos, there are two cables probably come through these holes over here. Come through, one to operate the tap, one to operate this side of the leader. There is actually a hole lining up with the lever on this side through the firewall. Although I can't find anything on the dash to indicate what that may connect to. So I'll actually have to look at the levers on the inside, work out whether they all go to the controls on the right hand side of the dash, or whether there is in fact a separate lever around about the centre of the dash. At this stage everything's going together. The wiper motor, I actually haven't looked at restoring that yet, so I'll have to do that. Probably might be my next major job to do. I'll clean that up. The mountings, of course, all of these mountings, well, they don't exist on the wiper motor. There's little bits of rubber left. I'll probably make up a mount for that. I can get some vibration fittings to go on there, and I'll make up something to use as a mounting for the wiper motor. So I've got to do that, make sure that's right. I've got all the wiring ready to go to those things. So actually there's a lot. It's a very busy firewall, so I think I've got most of it. There's a few little bits and pieces, few holes that handbrake mechanism. I managed to find one in a box, so I'll have to clean that up, lubricate it, make sure it works properly. That'll have to go in. The holes here, one is a drain for the vent well inside the car. The other one, I'm not sure what that one's for yet, but I'll figure that out. So all in all, it's coming together. Horns, I haven't bolted those up yet. Not bolted in place. I want to actually try and adjust those, but I've just got to get a spanner small enough to make the adjustment. So the wiring is ready to go into them, so when I've adjusted them I'll wire them in place. Handy not having the engine here, sitting in the engine bay, but it's coming together. A lot to do yet. I actually do a little bit at a time, and it's quite distressing to sit here and work out what's missing. So what I do in the meantime is I'm colour sanding the body, and that's a long and involved process. So when I get sick of this, I do a little bit more colour sanding on the body, and then when I get sick of that I come back to this. But it's coming together. It's starting to look a bit more like a car. Certainly more like a car than it was. Oh, the identification plates, I'd cleaned those up before. I need to just finish cleaning them and attach those back to the body before I forget that. But all in all, going together well.